What if I told you that a company once seen as an Apple copycat would eventually challenge and even outsmart one of the most powerful tech giants in the world? For years, Apple dominated the smartphone industry, setting trends and defining what a premium device should be. It had everything: sleek design, cutting-edge technology, and a cult-like following. No competitor seemed capable of shaking its empire. Then came Xiaomi, a small Chinese startup dismissed by many as just another budget phone maker, selling cheap knockoffs of Apple's iconic iPhones. But something unexpected happened. Instead of just copying, Xiaomi innovated. Instead of following, Xiaomi led. And instead of competing on Apple's terms, Xiaomi rewrote the rules of the game. By 2021, Xiaomi had done the impossible. It overtook Apple to become the world's second-largest smartphone manufacturer. But how did they do it? How did a company founded just a decade earlier manage to outmaneuver a tech giant with decades of experience and an unmatched global presence? The answer is more surprising than you think, because Xiaomi didn't just beat Apple at its own game. It changed the game entirely. Today, we will uncover how Xiaomi, the so-called Apple of China, outsmarted Apple itself. In 2010, a small team of tech enthusiasts in Beijing set out on a mission. Their vision? To create high-quality technology that everyone could afford. Xiaomi wasn't an instant smartphone powerhouse. In fact, it didn't even start as a hardware company. Instead, it focused on software, specifically MIUI, a custom Android-based operating system designed to offer a better user experience. But Xiaomi had an ace up its sleeve: its founder, Lei Jun. A savvy entrepreneur often compared to Steve Jobs, Lei Jun understood that to truly compete in the tech world, Xiaomi needed more than just great software. It needed its own devices. By 2011, Xiaomi launched its first smartphone, the Mi 1. But there was something different about how it was sold. Instead of relying on traditional retailers, Xiaomi adopted a direct-to-consumer online model. The result? High-end specs at a fraction of the price of an iPhone. The demand was insane. Xiaomi's first batch of 150,000 phones sold out in minutes. A new player had entered the game. And while Apple ruled the premium segment, Xiaomi was quietly building something even more powerful: a dedicated community of loyal users. While Xiaomi was just getting started, Apple was already a global giant. The iPhone had revolutionized the smartphone industry, setting a gold standard that competitors could only dream of reaching. Apple's secret? An unbeatable ecosystem. Owning an iPhone wasn't just about the device. It was about the seamless experience it provided. The tight integration between iOS, MacBooks, iPads, and services like iCloud made it nearly impossible for users to switch brands. Once you were in for life. And then, there was Apple's brand power. It wasn't just selling technology, it was selling a lifestyle. The sleek design, the premium materials, the exclusive events. Everything about Apple screamed luxury. And for years, this strategy worked. Apple's products commanded premium prices, and customers willingly paid. But Apple's dominance had one major weakness: accessibility. Not everyone could afford a $1,000 iPhone. And while Apple focused on maintaining its high-end reputation, Xiaomi saw an opportunity: a massive, untapped market hungry for premium tech without the premium price. The stage was set. Xiaomi had the ambition, Apple had the throne. But what happened next would change the industry forever. Apple had its brand. Xiaomi had its strategy. And it was unlike anything the tech world had seen before. Instead of competing directly with Apple in the premium segment, Xiaomi took a radically different approach, offering flagship-level specs at unbelievably low prices. But how was this possible? The secret lay in Xiaomi's business model. Unlike Apple, which relied on high profit margins per device, Xiaomi adopted a low-margin, high-volume strategy. It sold phones almost at cost and made profits through software, services, and its vast ecosystem of smart products. The company also cut out the middleman, selling directly to consumers through online flash sales. This not only slashed distribution costs, but also created a sense of exclusivity. Xiaomi phones would sell out in minutes, building hype with every launch. Another key strategy: community engagement. Instead of dictating features, Xiaomi actively listened to its users. Through online forums and social media, it gathered feedback and implemented real-time improvements. This approach created an army of loyal fans who didn't just buy Xiaomi products, they promoted them. With its disruptive pricing, efficient sales model, and user-driven innovation, Xiaomi wasn't just competing with Apple. It was creating an entirely new way of doing business. While Xiaomi was democratizing technology, Apple remained committed to exclusivity and luxury. Apple's philosophy was simple: premium products deserved premium prices. Every iPhone was meticulously designed, packed with cutting-edge technology, and marketed as a status symbol. Unlike Xiaomi, which focused on accessibility, Apple prioritized profit margins, and it worked. With every new iPhone release, Apple's pricing strategy became bolder. The introduction of the iPhone X in 2017, with a price tag of $999, proved that Apple's brand loyalty was strong enough to push the limits of what consumers were willing to pay. The result? Record-breaking revenues. But this approach came at a cost. While Apple focused on high-income customers, it left a massive gap in the mid-range and budget segments. This gap was exactly what Xiaomi exploited. As Apple continued to cater to the elite, Xiaomi was rapidly gaining ground among everyday consumers. And as global smartphone demand shifted toward affordability and value, it became clear that Apple's premium-only strategy might not be sustainable forever. Apple was still ahead, but Xiaomi was closing in, and soon it would achieve something that no one thought possible. In the early days, Xiaomi had a serious image problem. Critics didn't see it as an innovator, they saw it as a copycat. The resemblance was undeniable. From the sleek designs to the keynote presentations, Xiaomi seemed to borrow heavily from Apple's playbook. Even Xiaomi's CEO, Lei Jun, often dressed in a black turtleneck and jeans, just like Steve Jobs. This led to the nickname, the Apple of China. Apple itself wasn't amused. Jony Ive, Apple's former chief design officer, famously called Xiaomi's tactics theft rather than inspiration. And for a while, Xiaomi struggled to shake off the label of being a mere imitator. But here's where the story takes a turn. Instead of fighting the comparisons, Xiaomi used them to its advantage. If people saw it as an affordable Apple alternative, so be it. Xiaomi embraced the attention while quietly working on its own identity. As the company expanded, it started making bold moves, introducing unique design elements, pioneering new features, and investing in research and development. Xiaomi was no longer just following trends, it was starting to set them, and soon, the world would notice. By the mid-2010s, Xiaomi was done playing the role of an Apple clone. It was ready to redefine itself. One of Xiaomi's biggest steps toward originality was hardware innovation. While Apple was slow to adopt trends like bezel-less screens and high refresh rates, Xiaomi pushed boundaries. In 2016, it introduced the Mi Mix, one of the first smartphones with a nearly edge-to-edge display. The design was futuristic, proving that Xiaomi could lead, not just follow. Another game-changer was fast-charging technology. While Apple clung to its slower charging speeds, Xiaomi pioneered 120 watts and even 200 watts charging, making waiting for a full battery almost a thing of the past. But Xiaomi's most unexpected move? Its expansion beyond smartphones. While Apple remained focused on its ecosystem of phones, laptops, and tablets, Xiaomi built a mega ecosystem. It introduced smart home products, wearables, smart TVs, and even electric scooters. The goal? To integrate technology into every aspect of life, something Apple had yet to fully embrace. Slowly but surely, the perception of Xiaomi changed. It was no longer just another Apple wannabe. It had become a serious innovator in its own right. By the time the world realized this, Xiaomi was already on the verge of making history. For years, Apple and Samsung sat comfortably at the top of the smartphone world. They had the best technology, the biggest brand power, and the most loyal customers. No one else even came close. And then, out of nowhere, Xiaomi shook up everything. In July 2021, something unthinkable happened. Xiaomi surpassed Apple to become the second largest smartphone manufacturer in the world. Let that sink in for a moment. A company that was barely a decade old had overtaken a tech giant with decades of experience. How did this happen? First, Xiaomi didn't just focus on China. It went global, fast. Apple catered mostly to high-end markets, but Xiaomi went everywhere. India, Southeast Asia, Latin America, Europe. You name it. If people wanted a premium experience but couldn't afford an iPhone, Xiaomi was right there with an alternative. Second, Huawei's fall became Xiaomi's golden opportunity. When the US banned Huawei from using Google's Android, millions of customers suddenly needed a new brand to trust. Xiaomi stepped in and said, "Hey, we've got you covered." And just like that, it took over Huawei's lost market share. Then there's Xiaomi's signature move, flash sales. Instead of the traditional retail model, Xiaomi sold its phones online in limited batches, creating hype and urgency. This wasn't just marketing, it was a strategy. Xiaomi's phones would sell out in minutes, making them feel exclusive, even though they were actually affordable. And finally, the biggest factor of all, value for money. Apple sold premium phones at premium prices. Xiaomi, on the other hand, gave you flagship-level features for half the cost. Faster charging, better cameras, bigger batteries. Xiaomi wasn't just competing with Apple, it was offering more for less. And people noticed. For the first time in history, Apple wasn't in second place anymore. Xiaomi had taken that spot. And it wasn't stopping there. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Apple was all about its ecosystem. iPhones, iPads, MacBooks, AirPods. Everything worked seamlessly together, but it came at a high price. If you wanted to be in Apple's world, you had to pay a premium. Xiaomi? It had a completely different strategy. Instead of keeping things exclusive, it built an ecosystem for everyone. And we're not just talking about smartphones. Xiaomi started making smart home devices, wearables, TVs, laptops, even electric scooters. If you could put a chip in it, Xiaomi wanted to make it. Let's break it down. Smart home gadgets? Xiaomi had them all. Eye-powered air purifiers, security cameras, robotic vacuum cleaners. Apple had HomeKit, but Xiaomi was selling entire smart homes. Wearables? The Mi Band became a bestseller overnight. It had fitness tracking, heart rate monitoring, and long battery life. And it cost a fraction of an Apple Watch. Urban mobility? Apple was perfecting its iPhones, while Xiaomi was revolutionizing transportation with electric scooters. Smart TVs? While Apple had the Apple TV streaming box, Xiaomi was selling entire 4K smart TVs at unbeatable prices. Household appliances? Xiaomi was making smart fridges, washing machines, and air conditioners, all integrated into its ecosystem. Xiaomi's strategy was simple. Build an ecosystem where everything connects and make it affordable. And here's the genius part. Once people bought a Xiaomi phone, they'd naturally start buying Xiaomi's other products. Why? Because everything worked together seamlessly, just like Apple's ecosystem, but without the luxury price tag. Apple had exclusivity. Xiaomi had accessibility. And in a world where more people wanted smart technology at a reasonable price, Xiaomi was winning. But Xiaomi's most ambitious move was still on the horizon. It wasn't just stopping at gadgets, it was coming for the biggest industry of them all, electric cars. Yes, you heard that right. Xiaomi is now investing billions into EVs, electric vehicles, setting its sights on Tesla and Apple's rumored car project. And if history tells us anything, it's that whenever Xiaomi enters a market, it doesn't just compete, it disrupts. Now that Xiaomi has taken on smartphones, smart homes, and even electric vehicles, what's next? Can Apple keep up, or is Xiaomi rewriting the future of tech? Xiaomi's rise wasn't just about beating Apple in sales numbers, it was about proving that innovation doesn't have to come at an elite price. By redefining affordability and accessibility, Xiaomi changed the way the world viewed technology. But the story isn't over yet. As Xiaomi continues expanding into areas like artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, and smart living, it's clear that its ambitions go far beyond smartphones. With a relentless focus on research and development, Xiaomi is positioning itself not just as a competitor, but as a leader in the next wave of technological evolution. Meanwhile, Apple remains a giant, adapting and refining its strategies in response to Xiaomi's disruption. The question now is, can Apple maintain its dominance in a world that increasingly values affordability and innovation over exclusivity? Xiaomi has already outsmarted Apple in ways few expected, but the real battle for the future of technology is only just beginning. As the smartphone market evolves, the competition between Apple and Xiaomi is set to intensify. While Apple continues to bank on its brand loyalty and ecosystem, Xiaomi's advantage lies in its ability to adapt, experiment, and break industry norms. The future will likely be shaped by who can innovate faster, adapt to consumer demands, and define the next era of technology. Will Apple pivot to meet Xiaomi's challenge head-on? Or will Xiaomi's aggressive expansion strategy push it into entirely new territories beyond Apple's reach? One thing is certain: Xiaomi is no longer just the Apple of China. It is a global powerhouse rewriting the rules of competition. And if history has taught us anything, it's that the underdog, when given the right strategy, can sometimes outsmart even the biggest giants. What do you think? Can Xiaomi maintain its momentum, or will Apple make a comeback? Let us know in the comments below.